Imagine being a kid playing Rec Room competitively when VR Esports was nothing. And then years later, you're not just playing at the highest level, you're running the organization that everyone else is trying to be. That's the story of my guest today, Achilles, a founder of AESIR Esports, and he's been grinding in competitive VR Esports since he was a kid. Now, he's the owner of what's starting to look like the VR Esports Dynasty AESIR. We're talking consecutive titles in Breachers VRML, multiple wins in VAIL, and here's the crazy part. Achilles isn't just managing from the sidelines, he's out there as the captain of AESIR's VAIL team, leading from the front while running the entire organization. So what's it like growing up in VR Esports and watching it evolve around you? How do you balance being a player and an owner? And what does it take to build a dynasty in the VR Esports scene when everyone's gunning for you? Let's dive in and find out. All right, today we have Achilles, the founder of AESIR Esports and current captain of their VAIL team. AESIR, a team notorious for dominating the VR FPS space with the dynasty they've maintained in Breachers and, of course, the titles they've earned in VAIL. We haven't already heard about Beyond the Headset. Let me give you a little taste of what I'm hoping to accomplish here. I'm reaching out and talking with the people that have made an impact in the VR community and wanted to pick their brain and highlight what they've done. How you doing today, Achilles?
What's up, man? I'm really happy to be here, to be honest. I've been wanting to do one of these for a long time, so I'm super happy you reached out. This stuff's amazing.
Yeah, I was like starting this podcast up, and I was like, who should I reach out to? You know, my first episode was with Yellowhead. You know, shout out to Yellowhead. I really appreciate it. He's one of my friends anyway, so it was a really easy catch. I was like, hey, can you hop on? He's like, yeah, of course. On top of that, you know, he's got his own title. He got like the VAIL Major. He's been a caster, so it's very easy to get him. But then I'm like, what are some other ones I want to kind of try out? And I think I was going for a lot more. I wanted to check out some of the esports organizations because those are obviously the big ones.
Right.
Well known names. Luckily I got to get with IV Esports for episode 2. Funny enough, Virtual On, I had asked, like, hey, is there anyone you recommend? He's like, you know what? You should definitely talk with Achilles, too. He's like, he's a GOAT. Honestly.
Oh, wow, really?
You got a huge
I love that guy. I love
from,
that guy.
From Virtual On, because he's like, someone else that really does enjoy and love and really want to nurture the VR esports space. You should talk to Achilles. And I was like, okay, awesome. And I know, scheduling didn't quite work out, but hey, we finally got around to it, so I'm happy that it did come up. But no, I was excited to have you on. I mean, AESIR Esports, I've made TikToks about AESIR's Breachers team, so definitely
Right.
I'm well aware of the AESIR branding there. But anyways, for those out there that aren't quite aware of what AESIR is about, is there any what would you consider the highlights of the AESIR organization, the AESIR dynasty, whatever you like calling it?
I mean, to be honest, it's kind of hard to pick. It's kind of hard to pick at this point.
Right.
We've been doing this for a long time. There's championships across VRML, VAIL, Breachers, X8, Pavlov. I mean, you name a game, we've probably played it. But if I had to choose one, or maybe two, I would actually say almost recent ones, right? If you're keeping up with VRML at the moment, we just recently finished VRML Season 3 of VAIL,
Right.
both EU and NA. And we won both of those, which was just an absolutely amazing accomplishment, if I want to call it that. And it honestly shocked me. It really did. And at the same time, we somehow, I don't know how, but we somehow managed to pull the championship in Breachers NA and EU at the same time. This was four
Yep.
like back to back VRML championships. And I mean, I'm not really expressing this enough, but we were blown away. I mean, not just our teams, but the entire staff team, the entire media team, all the founders. I mean, it was just absolutely ridiculous. And I'm super excited to see the stuff we got planned on going forwards. I mean, I'm sure you as a Breachers caster, you've seen the amazing stuff mainly our NA team has accomplished recently. I mean, the whole comeback after the IVI era, that whole thing that happened.
Yeah, I made a whole
And
TikTok
now them
just
playing
on
at
that.
RemoteCon. Yeah, yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. So I'm super proud of them. I really am.
I've been definitely called an AESIR Glazer before. I've also been called a hater though, and I think I've said it before. Honestly, it's not necessarily I'm a hater. It's just like I think because how well AESIR's performed, not just in one region or even one game, it's hard not to be. I mean, you have to be critical, and when you're critical towards a team that's so high performing, you have to be nitpicky, and that's why I've kind of given some harder I think criticism towards y'all versus like another esports team that maybe isn't as well accomplished, right? Because for them, it's a little. I don't want to say it's easier to be nitpicky towards them, but it's different, right? When I give them criticism versus Acer, it's because because of the level gap, it allows me to be more nitpicky and harsher towards your team, but that's because it's well deserved, which is a good thing, right? That means your team,
right? Yeah, for
your
sure.
team and organization overall has been performing so well that when you have casters and people give their comment on the organizations, they have to be very, very nitpicky because you have to be. There's nothing else to really focus on. But I think I noticed I had seen an announcement recently. I believe Acer tends to be more on the FPS side. But you guys are picking up an Orion Drift team.
Right. Yeah. So it's not really my department. We've got Leviathan.
Departments. Okay.
Yeah. No, we do. But from what I know, at least, we kind of decided to reach out. For those who know, we reached out to Gorilla Tag a few years back. Big mistake. Never again. But we kind of noticed that popularity with Orion Drift. We've got this brand new game, this amazing dev studio, by the way,
right.
with a whole players. It's got VR support. It's got a dev studio that supports tournaments. Oh, what is happening with your hand?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was moving my mic, and then my hand just started, going crazy there.
Yeah, let me make sure I don't do that too. All right, we're good. Right, but it's a studio that supports tournaments, esports stuff in general, and we kind of just felt like, why not, right? We've done FPS for years on years now, but why not try something new for once? And we got incredibly lucky. I really want to express that. And we got this Orion Drift team that was just, I don't even know how to put it. I mean, they are absolutely amazing. They really are. They were a brand new team. They just formed up recently and they were climbing through the ranks day in, day out. It was absolutely amazing. And we managed to get a hold of them. We managed to get them part of AESIR. And right now, I'm really hoping to sort of develop some sort of presence in the Orion Drift scene, the same way we've kind of done in Breachers or VAIL. Because as of right now, we don't really know a whole lot about non-shooters, so we're kind of trying to expand into that stuff as well, expand our expertise, if you want to call it that.
Right. So do you think you're kind of relying on the current big names in a sport like game? Because to your point, AESIR, I've called them a dynasty. I've called them a dominant team. Right. But you're right. I think it does tend to be a little bit more FPS focused, right? VR FPS.
Yeah.
Do you think that's on purpose, or is that because that's, at least for the last couple of years, they were more the bigger esports games out there, or did you guys ever intend to kind of expand beyond FPSs?
Well, to put it simply, you can kind of tie this into the way that we kind of formed and the way that we operate. But most of the time when we add a new team or reach into a new game, we don't do it blindly. We take a lot of time to properly research and make sure we have a sustainable team that can actually carry on the brand name. Now, and in order to do this, you can't just get a random team and kind of hope that they do their stuff right. Instead, we usually have a good network, right? If you know a good top player, he's going to be friends with other good top players across other games. It's all sort of a big network. And that's something we kind of just pride ourselves on. We use that a lot. Mainly when we add a new team, you might notice that players on that team are friends with players on other AESIR teams. Because, of course, it's very important that these teams are able to sort of cooperate correctly and not completely hate each other, which happens time to time with other teams. But I guess that sort of just happened. But when it comes to FPS games, it just kind of follows that whole scheme. It's the same friends, it's the same people who kind of just, they try out new games. Breachers came out, our VAIL players kind of stepped into that, experimented a tiny bit, made a team. X8 came out, our Breachers players kind of stumbled into that game, tried some stuff out. And that's just kind of been our way of expansion until more recently with Orion Drift and some other teams like Knock, for example, or Hyperdash. But that's just going to be the main gist of it.
So I'm kind of curious. You mentioned it's important to find that good chemistry and do your research when you expand into different leagues. I guess my question then is, have you ever had a problem, or have you ever thought about the situation where you did expand into a league, maybe the team you did pick up didn't perform well enough, maybe they struggled over a season or two, do you ever consider at some point just cutting, that Acer branch, I guess, of that league, or do you kind of just try to
Yeah,
move on, persevere, and hopefully get a good enough team at some point?
I'll say this, and this is something that Frosty himself can agree with. We are not afraid from cutting a player or a team or a captain or anything like that. Not at all.
Mm,
The thing with Acer is we have a brand name to uphold. I mean, we're known across a bunch of different games, a bunch of different leagues. A single team making mistakes, I'm not really talking performance mistakes, but toxicity or harassment, anything like that, that tarnishes not just the brand, but the other teams as well. I can
right.
safely say that, let's say if we added let's just say an XA team, for example, if they misbehaved by a lot, this might be hard to believe, but that will almost directly affect, like the Breachers team, for example. Their reputation is affected by it, not just externally, but internally as well. And you have these players who are, they're really proud. They're really proud to be a part of Acer, to kind of do their thing under this brand. And then they have these people up here kind of just ruining the brand at the same time.
Right.
And as an organization that's built on loyalty and on pride itself, we just can't have that, not at all. Which is why we have cut off teams in the past. We have cut off multiple teams, and it's the exact reason why we kind of avoid picking up teams that we can't fully trust, or teams that we haven't done proper research on. And on top of that, we avoid picking up teams that might end up hurting the scene, the actual growth of the scene. Now, I can't really give you a precise number, but it's pretty ridiculous the amount of requests we get. It's almost every single day you'll get a team
I'm
reaching out. Hey,
sure.
we won this league. Hey, there's a tennis super league that just came out. We won our first match.
Yeah.
Let's join Acer. I mean, there's a lot of that stuff. There really is, and unfortunately,
Okay.
we have to turn 99% of them down in order to hold our reputation high. But it's important to note that we just kind of focus on sustainability and having a small group that's able to perform rather than just expanding into every single possible branch that we can.
How
Because
many?
that's going to end up hurting the scene and
Right.
it's going to end up hurting us.
How many branches do you currently have under Acer? Right. You have definitely Breachers, definitely VAIL. Orion Drift now. Are there other ones that maybe I'm not aware of?
As of right now, our X8 branch is kind of just on hold. I'm not really sure what's happening with that game at the
Okay.
moment. We do have the Pavlov team, both the Shack team and the PC team.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, we do have the Hyperdash team that's just kind of sitting around at the moment,
Hyperdash.
and
Okay.
the Knock
Interesting.
teams. Yeah, the other Triangle Factory game. But we've had more teams in the past, but right now, our focus the past like half year or so is kind of just being around sustainability, making
Okay.
sure that our brand is able to function over a longer amount of time, rather than just focusing on winning as much as possible. Um, but those are the teams right now. And we do have some other expansion plans in the future, but not really anything I can disclose at the moment, of course.
Really, not a little podcast special. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
So,
maybe at the end, maybe at the end, if you listen the whole thing through.
hey, maybe so. So I'm kind of curious. I've heard this question many times from other people that we're
Oh
on
boy.
teams and they hear about organizations. What does it mean, at least from Acer, to be underneath the Acer organization? What kind of support do you generally give to a team? Do you give support at all, or is it more of just kind of giving them the branding and then maybe, I guess, some direction or coaching? I'm kind of curious. What does it mean to be an Acer team versus like
So
for
this is
another team,
this is
for
very
example, right? Yeah.
right, of course. I mean, this is a pretty common misconception, and I hear this a lot. I hear people saying, "Oh, this team just got paid $10,000 to join Acer." I'm like, "What? 10,000? Where'd you get that money from?" But
The prize pools are barely
as I
that
kind
size,
of
right? The
mentioned,
prize pools.
I mean, yeah, exactly. So, but as I kind of briefly mentioned earlier, we pride ourselves on loyalty and reputation, right? And what that's kind of built up over these years is it's made a name that people kind of want to play for more importantly than to win or to earn money or anything like that. You can kind of look at it like the old like 2016 FaZe Clan, like everyone wanted to be a part of
Right.
this whole thing. We're kind of aiming for the same thing. Now, of course, we do offer support in plenty of different ways, and we do have our own funding as well. But I want to mention that that funding mainly is focused on tournaments or different events.
Okay.
We've had multiple $1,000 tourneys. We have an upcoming one, a $2,000 tourney that's going to be really interesting. But stuff like that, that's kind of where our money goes. But when it comes to the teams, it's more important for us to build a community of the best players. And
Okay.
people kind of realize that once they leave AESIR, once they're kicked off, or if they're threatened to be kicked off, they realize like, oh man, I just missed out on this extremely tight community that's got all the information about upcoming games. It's got all the top players, all the top coaches from a bunch of different games. Let's say, let's say you, for example, let's say you wanted to join AESIR for Breachers, and at the same
Me?
time, you kind of just wanted to.
Do I get a caster
Right,
by,
but
you know?
yeah,
Do I get a little special?
yeah, some caster funds as well.
That'd be fun.
But right, let's say
Yeah.
you play for AESIR and Breachers, and then you kind of just want to try out VAIL. You've heard a bunch of stuff about VAIL. It seems really interesting. Well, wouldn't you know it? You're one channel away from like the 8 best players in VAIL history, all right there, along with some other
I
coaches.
see that.
It gives you like a really direct contact, and not just in the sense that you can ask them anything, but more or less in the sense that it's an actual community. We pride ourselves on that. We have like game nights, we have different events that we do internally with our different teams. We've had stuff planned to have teams fight each other as a bit of a mini tournament inside. Just stuff like that to ensure that our players not only have fun being under the branch, but having fun for the branch, during the branch, and inside the branch. But that's just kind of the main thing, and it's something that I've seen a lot of other orgs and teams fail to do. They sort of just pour money in. They offer all sorts of different things, saying, "We'll pay you this, and we'll do this, and we'll do that if you join us." And then half of those end up being false promises, or anything even worse than that, and it all just kind of falls apart. Meanwhile, we're entirely built on respect and loyalty, not just to the staff, but to each other and to the brand. Everyone knows that if you make a mistake, the people right next to you are going to pay for that mistake. The stuff that you do under our brand, the stuff that you do publicly, like harassment, toxicity, your teammates are going to get punished for that by the community. The same way the other teams are going to get punished by the community in the same sense. So it's all a bit of a hard system to set up. But right now we got it working, and it's working really well, and it's looking sustainable. So we're hoping it carries on in that direction.
I like that you kind of had this bigger focus on anything on the community and having more
Right.
support systems. I think I hear this a lot, right? When people talk about organizations, especially esports, I think the first question is always kind of money related. And I think most people will say like, oh, is it like they get paid? You know, how do they convince people to come in and all these sort of things? I remember, man, it was like a while back. It was like some old Breachers team. Someone was like, we have pro players. I'll pay you per game. And I was sitting here I don't know. Like, I understand like that could be incentivizing to get people to join you. But you kind of need to already have a strong, to your point, like a good support system. Otherwise,
Right.
I feel like you're not going to necessarily get the best players, which I know money, like if you obviously have a lot of money, you might be able to convince top players to join you. But, you know, the amount they were talking about, I feel like you're more going to draw in like money hungry players versus like ambitious players, right? Because those are going to be two different types of players. And ambitious players might be drawn to you know, a large sum of money, maybe, because at that point it's almost like impossible to turn down. But like a smaller sum of money, I hate to say it, like it's not a big enough of a driver versus their own ambitions, right? And this was actually something funny enough Virtualon had mentioned. I was like, what's a big draw a lot of the times? And he had mentioned, honestly, a lot of it's like ambition of players, right? They want to be a part of the top teams. They want to be part of teams that on top of that win titles, right? Versus I get like $10 a game, you know, playing at this other like up and coming esports team. So that's cool. I really like that, you know, your team is more focused.
But real quick on that topic, I mean, as you mentioned, it's the whole fact that here, let me check. All right, we're good. No, as you mentioned right there, it's the whole fact that you're able to play something that you want to be a part of, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's important to mention VR is still a hobby for almost all of us.
It's
like
not a full-time job. It's not.
It just isn't sustainable either from an org standpoint to just be paying out money. It's not sustainable, and it's not sustainable for the players to kind of expect money. You're performing and you're expecting money constantly in return. It's a lot more it's a lot better to have a community that has fun, right? It's fun to play for the brand. It's fun to play with their teammates, and that's the entire thing that we're focused on. And of course, we save a lot of money doing that too. So I'm not complaining, but
I'm
it
sure
works
because
out.
I'm sure. I mean, y'all, you win leagues, you win prizes, and I will acknowledge there's some money in that, but at the same time, the numbers I hear from
Not much.
organizations is just like to support, not just one, maybe several branches of your teams. Like, it's just not enough, right? It's what a couple. Like I think some of the best ones are
Yeah,
a
exactly.
handful of thousands of dollars, right? Which sounds really nice, but when you split that potentially amongst several different players or owners amongst several different teams, like it gets cut down really, really fast. And that's also if
Yeah,
you're not
yeah,
including what it takes to operate things, right? If you're potentially having to fly people out, for tournaments and stuff, that's
yeah,
going to
yeah,
cost
for
money.
sure.
Like it costs money to run organizations. I think people forget that. Like, and that's why
Yeah,
I
it
give credit
does.
actually to VRML because they're one of the more long-standing organizations in terms of esports and VR esports, and that's why I always give them credit. I know people have sometimes opinions about how they run things, but to me, I always say they're good at the organization side of it because it's
Yeah,
challenging, right? I remember I think it's like Oji Waizuko, one of the community managers in BCL, and he tells me all the time like it's one of the most challenging things just running in Aura because it's hard to just keep the lights on, right? To have support, mod
yeah, it really
support,
is.
people running matches, tournaments, all these sort of things, casting support. It's hard, like it's so difficult. So running an esports organization has its own set of challenges in terms of organization and keeping the teams together because you
Right.
could very easily have one team or several branches fall apart around the same time, and you have to like pick up the pieces,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I'm kind of curious, Achilles. What was actually your first VR game? What brought you into VR in the first place? Why not be an esports player
Oh
or esports
boy.
org in another kind of game, right? Or medium altogether?
Okay, well, before everyone clicks off this video, let me defend myself. I started off in the very famous game called Rec Room. That was the first competitive game that I played first. Now, it sounds ridiculous, it really does, but I played it, God, I don't know how many years ago now, like 7 years ago or so, in
Yeah,
like
yeah,
2017, 2018. And I want you to imagine, I want everyone listening to imagine Rec Room today, right? The
right.
hellscape that it is. Now imagine that the quest doesn't exist. The quest 1, the quest 2, the quest 3, all the quest kids as they're called, they don't exist yet. That's not a thing. That's not a term. Now at the same time, imagine that screen mode isn't a thing. You can't play on PC. You can't play on laptop or phone or Xbox or your fridge or anything like that. The game was exclusively for Rift players, HTC Vive players, and Valve Index players,
Mm-hmm.
which is obviously a bit of a higher um, age
Price point.
grade.
Yeah,
Now, right, and the thing is, the game itself, it might sound like it wasn't that popular back then with how small, how limited that is, but it was very popular. There were thousands upon thousands of competitive players. It's very hard to believe, but some of these leagues back then, the like 2019, 2020 leagues, they were big. They really were. It's not comparable to VRML in professional size, but it's comparable to VRML in player size. There were
yeah.
just
Interesting. Okay.
an unbelievable amount of players and teams all over the place. And the game itself turned super competitive. As I mentioned, it's hard to believe, but when you have 10,000 like 18-year-olds glued to the Valve Index, you get a lot of strats and you get a lot of passionate players and a lot of different
Wait,
prodigies.
can I
So
interject
the
here?
game itself was, yeah, yeah, of course.
You say competitive for Rec Room. In what aspect? Like what game? Because I know Rec Room is a variety of games, right? So what game type are you
Right.
what are you specifically alluding to?
I'm mostly referring to laser tag and paintball, which were the two
Okay,
like
okay,
main
yeah,
big game games, right? That had their own leagues and tournaments and prize pools and all sorts of different stuff. That stuff is long gone. I mean, from what I know at least, it's all pretty
yeah.
much gone today. But back then, amazing community comparable to like almost Onward and Pavlov back in the day. And I learned a lot from it. I learned a hell of a lot from that entire community, both managing things, captaining teams, playing as a player, and that was kind of my kickstart into the whole VR scene as a whole. And since then, of course, I've been around the block. I've played plenty of different games competitively since then. But that was kind of my starting point. And I guess that's a bit of a quick history lesson for those that don't know about early Rec Room. It was actually pretty pretty special.
I love that rec room. I mean, that was actually an unexpected answer. I always expect something
Yeah,
else.
yeah, for sure.
Maybe something a little bit more harder to being FPS, which is kind of funny. But
Right, yeah, yeah,
yeah. So now I'm kind of curious. That's how you started in VR. What about Acer?
yeah,
Where
yeah.
did Acer's start come from? Did you always intend it to be an esports organization? Was it kind of you started in one league and then you started expanding? Kind of how did it go from Acer as maybe a single team, probably is my guess, to then become Acer the
Right.
organization?
So, like many things, what Acer became was not planned. Not for a second, not at all. We formed Acer back in what 2022 maybe early VAIL, where three top teams disbanded: Global Chem, Flow State, and Crimson Claw, three very notorious teams. And the remains of those players, myself and a few others, we formed Acer for the first time. And you might think, oh man, I mean, the top teams forming into one super team, and this was the beginning of Acer. These guys they've got to be great. No, we sucked. We were absolutely awful at the start. But as time went on, we kind of got a grip on things. We started to compete with the big names. I mean, Determined, Wrecked, like the really
Mm-hmm.
popular ones,
Mm-hmm.
Vortex. And time went on. We really got a good concept on how to play the game, not just competitively, but we got a really good synergy going on. We barely swap players out. We just had the same team playing the same stuff, grinding the game, ran by pure passion, and eventually we somehow managed to finish as the best team in the game, which I'm very proud of. I was back then, and I still am right now. But then, what kind of kickstarted the whole thing was Breachers came out, right? And that, as I mentioned a bit earlier, that kind of diverted a few of our players to try it out. I mean, this game seems really
Yeah.
interesting, and it's a Triangle Factory game after all. And I mean, they got completely grabbed by it. They loved it. Namely, Tech9 Jr., who is still on the team
Yep.
today.
Yep.
Big shout out to him. They formed a team. They picked in new players. I mean, they picked up Hotline there at some points. I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
Mm-hmm.
greatest pickup of all time. And I mean, they just developed their own team, playing under the same name. And all of a sudden, we had two teams that were extremely close to each other. These teams played constantly, not just each other's games, but we hung out in VCs, we watched movies, had game nights, stuff like that. I mean, we were super tight. And then I guess that just kind of kept on repeating over and over and over again until we had what was basically an organization. And we were forced to kind of start organizing everything to make sure everything was
Right.
sustainable and everyone was behaving. And I guess that's what we are today. That's just kind of how it started off. Not planned whatsoever, but we took it as it came.
So I'm kind of curious. What do you think was the hardest challenge going from, just that? It sounds like just the Veil team to the Breachers team, and I guess because at that point you're an org, right? You're no longer a
Yeah,
single
yeah, right.
team. What do you think was the biggest challenge becoming an organization? When I don't know how long you were just a team, but what were the differences you had noticed? What was the challenges you had noticed?
I mean, as I kind of ended on there, when it became too big, that was an issue. I mean, at some point we had what, three, four teams that all just kind of independently ran. Don't get me wrong, we had original founders that kind of started the whole thing, but there was no structure at all. It was just four teams having fun together. And the difficulty there was making sure everything was actually working out, making sure people weren't falling out with each other, making sure
Mm,
people weren't misbehaving, and sort of building up a bit of a, I don't want to call it pyramid scheme, but I guess you could call it that, and actually getting captains who do stuff correctly and having staff members, having media team, having
mm-hmm.
casters, having founders,
Right.
directors, outreach directors. I mean, all of that kind of stuff, along with like a legal team, an advisory board. I mean, all of that stuff. And it sounds really brief, but I mean that was all over. I mean, 2 years at least. It took 2 years, if not more, to kind of develop that. And it's easily the hardest part. Once you have an org going, the hardest part is making sure it's actually gonna last. It's not that hard to build one, but it's very hard to build one that's gonna last for longer than a few months, which can be seen with a lot of different orgs throughout the past 7, 8 years.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think one of the most impressive things I've seen from Acer, like at least on the Breacher side, because obviously I was a Breachers caster for several years. That's where a lot of my experience with Acer comes from. Like I remember calling it
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Like I think it's season 3 or whatever, season 2. It's just like the Acer Dynasty, right? To be able to have
Right.
several back-to-back titles, to still have solid players stick around for so long, it's so impressive, honestly. And it's always that's something I always commended. I think Acer just being able to maintain such a long-standing, high-performing team, because that's to your point, very challenging, and not just doing it in a single league, but across different leagues. So credit
Right.
to you guys. I gotta give you your
Yeah,
flower.
yeah,
I'm sure you're gonna get a lot
absolutely.
of flowers with these titles, but
No, we're super honored, we
from
really
someone
are.
just looking at it, I gotta really appreciate what you all have done, and
Yeah,
it's
thank
really
you.
cool to see. Kind of the mark you've left in the VR esports space. I think people forget, like, we're still, I don't want to say at the very, very beginning, there's some other way bigger games, to your point. Rec Room, Echo had a huge, showing
Right.
for a couple years there.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, like, you still made an impact in the VR esports space. And that's I think, always a really cool story to kind of think about and look back on. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
So, we had mentioned, things and problems that come with orgs. I think, you know, a thing that comes up a lot is funding. And I'm always kind of curious, at least for Acer, how do you deal with funding? Do you deal with funding? Is it self-funded? Is it donation? Is it sponsors? Is it just prize money alone? Kind of, if you don't mind divulging some of that.
Yeah, no, no issues. No problem. I mean, when it comes to taking cuts from teams, it's a pretty popular thing in most esports. But I mean, we're on a way too small scale for that. We can't be taking cuts out of an already very minuscule prize pool. I mean, as you mentioned earlier, there'll be like enough money to buy like a Kit Kat or something after you win a season if we start taking cuts. It's just not
Right.
going to work out. It really isn't. But when it comes to funding, most is out of our own pockets. When it comes to,
Wow.
I
Okay.
mean, my own pockets, we have other directors. We got Cooper, Taquito, Leviathan. We have the people under that, Eventide, like Domi, like a bunch of different people that all kind of contribute to this thing. There's, of course, sponsors, but I mean, it's the same thing with sponsors. No sponsor is going to realistically pay a lot of money for 100 viewers at the time. I mean, it's just
Right.
not going to
Right.
happen in its current state. But I mean, as I mentioned earlier, we try to keep the funding as low as possible right now.
Okay.
If we wanted to expand, then sure. But if we were to expand a bunch right now, we would hurt the scene 100%. We would be hurting the scene and the scene's growth if we kept on expanding. Instead, focusing on sustainability, we're not really burning all that much money in comparison to expanding into brand new branches and games. So we're just kind of existing right now. Most of the money goes to tournaments, which on their own are already pretty much funded by different dev studios or different organizations and stuff like that. But I'd say that's the general thing right now. We are working on becoming an official LLC, so we can start working
Oh,
out
wow. Okay.
proper merch and
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff and proper taxes. As I mentioned, we do have a legal team, but a legal team is only going to get you so far if you don't have an established LLC. So we're working those details out right now. But maybe after that, we'll see.
Yeah, so you mentioned using funding for tournaments. I'm kind of curious then. Is it more to pay for tickets? Are these in-person tournaments, or I guess I'm kind of curious how that kind
Um,
of out in that, at least.
I meant more or less. I mean, of course, we spend money when it comes to like VRMLCon. Like we'll pay off jerseys and stuff like
Mm.
that. But when it comes to tournaments, we've hosted tournaments. We haven't had any
Oh, I see what
breachers
you're
tournaments
saying.
yet.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah. We've had VAIL tournaments. We've had XA tournaments. We've had all sorts of different ones in different games.
Mm.
That's where the money kind of goes.
I see, I see.
Um, don't get me wrong, a tournament's not really going to make that much of an impact. I mean, you might only get 50, 60 viewers, but it's still important to have that in the portfolio. And like, hey, look at us. We can host tournaments and we can successfully do so with people saying, oh man, this is a great tourney. It's just good to have that in the portfolio, which is why we're kind of spending time and effort on that right now, even though we're gaining quite literally nothing back money wise.
Okay, that makes more sense. Wait, so you're doing tournaments, you want to show that in your portfolio. Are you kind of alluding to the fact
Yeah.
that you want um Acer to go beyond just being like an esports competitive team, but maybe more of an esports company? What do you?
It's definitely hard to discuss right now. It's too early, especially with how slow the
Yeah,
VR scene is
yeah.
growing. But as of right now, I would say that, how should I put it? As of right now, we're just kind of staying as an organization.
Okay.
When it comes to expanding into like a proper company with a bunch of different incomes and stuff like that, way further in the future. That's not time for that whatsoever right now. Um, can you repeat a part of that question? I'm
Oh
curious
no, I
on.
guess I was just kind of asking,
No,
maybe
no, no worries.
subtly,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe subtly, just so it sounds like Acer is not just trying to be a competitive team. Maybe expand into other kind of functions in terms of VR esports. Maybe running
Right. Okay.
tournaments, leagues, something like that. It sounds like potentially, or you can't talk about
Yeah, I
it.
just needed that
Yeah.
clarified. I mean, I'm like trying to formulate some thoughts, but there's a lot of just ridiculous NDA stuff. I'm trying to make sure I don't say
I get
something
it.
that's.
I get it. All right, you're good. We can move on. I was trying to poke and prod, see if I can get any new
But I guess
information.
something I could mention on that topic is the fact that never mind, that's NDA too. Never mind. No, but take that back. I take that back.
Oh man! All right. We'll move on. We'll move on. I wanted to see what I could get out of you. You know, I'm always asking questions. It's
Yeah, no, maybe later. Maybe later.
yeah. We
Maybe
could
after
talk off the
another half an
record
hour.
if you want. We can do that. We can do it. Acer as an organization, obviously at this point you've had several titles. You've been casted so many times. You've played in tournaments. You've gotten a lot of things, right? But can you ever
Yeah.
recall how it felt to get the first one? Like, how was that first title when you finally felt like, hey, like we could really do something here?
Would you say like as an organization or as a team? Is this like a personal or more
Ooh,
of an
okay.
org thing?
How about both? Why not ask, like, how did it feel for you to get your own first title? And how did you feel as an organization finally to get a title, maybe in something that you weren't playing?
Right. I mean, when it comes to like personal stuff, I'd love to tell you, but I can barely remember. It's been like 7 years since the first ones, but there's definitely been plenty of ones throughout the years. I've played like Hyperdash. I've won a season in that. I've won some VAIL stuff, some old Rec Room stuff. Um, but I can't really find a good one that I personally just really hold value to. But when
Mm,
it comes to organization, I would say the first thing that just really set the nail was the first Breachers win, right?
mm,
This was back when, if I remember correctly, we only had like three teams or so. And Acer as our team, our Veil team, don't get me wrong, we were extremely strong, but we lost. We lost to Rect at the VRNOCon, which was a huge setback for us personally after going almost undefeated for a whole
mm.
season. But then right after that loss, the Breachers team, they came in, they got their win, they
Yep.
got that all that honor back, and I was so unbelievably proud of every last one of them. And that was definitely the one that just kind of sparked everything back on again. Like, oh my God, we're actually doing it. We have teams winning at VRMLCon, and we have teams that are just doing insanely well right now, and everything is expanding. Everything is just going in the right direction, right? But I would say VRMLCon last year, the Breachers win,
Mm. That was a good. It was a
definitely
good
one of
one.
our major, most important ones. Yeah, for sure. Exciting match. One hell of an exciting match.
Yeah, I remember doing the casting for that, and I was just like, wow, like we were going because it was also back in the day when we had
Yeah,
no
yeah,
overtime, so it was like 5 games deep. It was
yep.
sweaty for everybody. Like we were just sitting, in a pool of sweat. I'm sure for the players, way worse than me.
Yeah, it was
And I think,
terrifying. Oh
yeah,
my
it was a
God.
great meme that came out of it. I think like the Acer icon for Breachers, they had a thing. It was like no medal, no opinion, because it was like the if you had won a
Yeah,
beer
yeah,
milk
yeah,
con, they gave
yeah.
you a medal. So it was funny. Definitely a good meme that came out of that. I love that. I love that. I didn't realize that's something that sticks out for you. I love that. Especially like I feel like an in person winning, like winning an in person event is also just so different
Oh
versus some of
yeah,
these
for sure.
online ones. So I totally get that. A
Ask
question I've been
away.
wanting to ask, and I like asking of orgs, especially owners too. Is there any advice that you think you would give to anyone who's interested in potentially starting their own organizations? Right? There's always new teams coming together, but to become an organization, as you mentioned, is kind of another step. Is there any advice you think
Yeah.
that would help them become that org? Maybe tips, maybe things to watch out for.
I mean, this might be a bit of a longer rant here, but in my years of experience with just all sorts of different things and different games and communities, there's been one like piece of advice that have kind of just worked out not just for me, but for many others. And it's
Right.
something that I feel like anyone listening can take up on. regardless if you're a player, you're a captain, a league manager, I mean, a developer. And that thing is to balance professionalism with just pure normal fun. And it sounds
Mm,
really simple on its own, but I would personally say, as someone who's seen a lot of different organizations just fall throughout these years, one of the main factors why they've just fallen apart is typically due to way too much professionalism or seriousness. You have these
yeah.
people running the org who take it, they treat it like a job, right? And having that mentality, don't get me wrong, it's a good way to start. I fully agree. And it's a good way to kind of approach different dev studios and other professional people. But when your whole personality and your whole thing just revolves around treating it like a job and being super serious, super strict, things fall apart. Either you're gonna fall apart, you're gonna just get outburnt and not be able to handle it anymore, or the people around you are gonna grow tired of the way that you kind of run things. And as I said, that's regardless if you're an org manager or simply just a team captain or a league manager. It becomes too much. It becomes too exhausting for something that should mostly be treated as a hobby. But on the other side of the coin, you have the people who just have fun. I mean, they just play the game for fun. The issue with that is not just the fact that if you have too much fun, you're probably not going to win. I mean, not, that of course that, but the main fact is the whole issue with the line between fun and toxicity is sometimes a bit blurry, especially in a scene like this. You see
Interesting.
a lot of
Okay.
players and captains and stuff like that who they want to have fun. They show pure passion and ambition, but they take it a tiny bit too far. You notice hints of toxicity or just outright harassment, both to other players, but to other like org managers and stuff as well. And that stuff sticks. It really does. If I have an interaction with a player, a really bad interaction, who ends up becoming an org manager like a year in the future, I'm damn sure going to remember that. I'm damn sure going to remember how they treat people outside of that like professional facade, right? So to kind of summarize everything, stay in the middle. Be professional when you have to be professional, be serious when you have to, but remember to have fun. It's a hobby. Have fun with your players, have fun with your teams, have fun with what you're doing, and you're not going to get outburnt. As long as you're not going too far in either direction, I can assure you that stuff is most likely going to work out. And as time goes by, you'll kind of build up the experience to know when to have fun and when to be serious. With who should you be serious with and who should you have fun with.
I like that
That's just kind of my
balance of the
main
two.
piece of advice
Yeah.
I've noticed throughout the years.
Wow. Okay. Okay. I like that. I like that. And so you obviously at this point you mentioned several times you've been in VR for several years. And
Yeah, yeah.
how do you feel about the growth it's currently had? Where it's heading? Do you feel it's going the way it should be? Do you think there are other things it should focus on instead?
I feel like a lot of people are not very pleased with the way VR is growing at the moment. It's not. It doesn't seem very rapid. It seems like it's just kind of plateaued, especially
Mm,
in some competitive scenes. People complain it's the same top players over and over against the same top teams. There's no new talent. There's no new players. But I would like to say that it might seem that way up front, but when you get an eye of how stuff is running behind the scenes, we are 100% going the right direction, and by a lot more than people think. Just the entire VR scene in general. It's easy to kind of look at the big mistakes in the past. I mean, you can take the IVRL major, for example, the $36,000 event that happened. That was, I mean, I'm sure they blew like hundreds of thousands of dollars just on the budget on that
right.
event,
Right.
only for it to have a few hundred live viewers. I mean, it was a flop. Absolutely. I mean, no one can deny that it was. And it's easy to kind of look at that and be like, oh yeah, there was so much more money back then. Now there's no stuff compared to that. But the difference between back then and now is that we have a foundation to stand on. A lot of different
Okay.
games, especially Breachers and VAIL at the moment. I mean, you can bring this up with AX Lab, the developers of VAIL. They spend a lot of time right now making sure that there's a foundation to stand on. You need to have a sustainable game with an actual income before you can do competitive stuff. They made the mistake earlier. I mean, they made a competitive game and it all exploded into pieces. but now they're doing casual stuff. They're getting players in. They're going up in player count every single day. They're earning money. The second that becomes profitable for them, I promise you they will spend real money on esports, 100%. And it's the same for Triangle Factory. I mean, they're making Forefront right now, which is going to be a casual game.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, I mean, don't get me wrong, there will be esports for it. People will always find a way, but the game is supposed to be casual. It's supposed to be a casual game that they can earn money off of as a studio. And that's the kind of stuff that we need right now. We need the VR scene to actually be stable before it grows. Because if it doesn't, everything's just going to topple. It's all going to fall apart. Like we've seen with the Onward community, all their prize pools, or Pavlov, or VAIL, as I just mentioned. So a lot of people might be alarmed. They might be worried that we're not really going in the right direction. I promise you we are going the right direction. It just might not be as fast or as obvious as you might hope that it is.
You know,
It is going in the right direction.
Yeah, I like that you kind of made a call out to the more casual side of it. I think you're honestly totally right. I've said this before. I've been seeing it more in games. Orion Drift's a great example where they have a huge, I think, casual player base. I think that's important, right? I think you're right. There's failures we've seen before where maybe there was only. I feel like I've said it. If there's only competitive players in a game, it's not good. Because that means there's no casual base. It's not going to be able to grow. It's kind of the biggest thing. And if something's not growing, or has a big enough of a player base, it's not going to unfortunately make enough money. And I don't know about you, but if you're a company and you're not making enough money, you can't even support the game to be alive, right? And I know Meta was a little harsher, I think, potentially, but Echo VR is a good example where I feel like at one point it felt like most of the player base was probably mostly comprised of competitive players, which was great for the VR esports scene, which is awesome for us. But, you know, as an esports person, I know it's important and great to have amazing players, but if there's not even a game to support, there's not enough of a casual player base to support the game and keep it alive and functioning. You know, how do you expect to, one, attract esports players and maintain them and maintain the game altogether? Because you think about like the biggest esports games that are also attached to really popular games. Rainbow Six Siege, I know it's kind of been lagging over the years, but it's still a very big player base. Rivals is starting to get a pretty good esports scene going. CS:GO has a huge player base, right? And I think people just kind of forget that you need that solid player base. And generally, I feel like if you go towards if you can cater to the casual market, you should be fine at having kind of that, I think, solid player base. Because, I mean, VR is already hard enough to get into now. But, you know, do you want everyone to get into competitive VR on top of that? It's going to cut out so many people from joining VR games, you know, in a medium that's already so hard to get people into. Whether it's like, maybe it's the comfort of the headsets or the cost of the headsets, or people get motion sickness. There's so many reasons for people not to play VR, right? And so you want to make it, I hate to say it, make it as easy as possible for them to join, and then we'll get more people. You know, in the long run, which is better for, I think, everybody. Yeah, no, I like that. I like that you acknowledge that. I really appreciated that. So I'm kind of curious. I always leave this little segment towards the end. Is there any interesting takes you think you have on the VR landscape or anything that you want to get off your chest about VR?
Oh boy, interesting takes to say. Okay, well,
I don't want to force. Okay, I don't want to make no pressure. It's just like, is there anything like you've always thought about with VR? You're like, why does no one talk about this? Or I feel this way.
I guess that's fair. I mean, to quickly mention half the things I could say, I'll annoy a few people, but
up to you. You know what's crazy? Virtual Line had a very hot take. He was like, I don't consider VR FPS as part of the VR esports.
Let's hear it.
Kind of scene, and I was like, wow, that's crazy considering, you know, IV's a pretty big name in several FPSs, and obviously your team, you know, AESIR as a whole is very, very big in the FPS side. But that was an interesting take by him. I was like, wow. That was bold.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting.
You don't need something that bold. That was kind of bold. I'm not going to lie.
No, I got to talk to him about that later. That sounds interesting. No, but I mean, something we could mention, I guess, when it comes to Forefront, I kind of mentioned Forefront a bit earlier. It's not really scheduled out right now, but we have this ingenious plan to host some form of formal event. Hopefully a prize pool, get some casters in there thrown into the mix.
Ooh. We talked about getting Caster Squad. We talked about getting Caster Squad going, so.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're right here. But the thing about Forefront is that it's a 16v16. Yep. That's a lot of goddamn players.
It is.
Now, I want you to just quickly picture in your head, what if you somehow manage to cast an event with 16 of the finest Acer players on the same team. What's the amount of fun that you could do with that sort of event? And we have a lot of plans. We have a lot of plans. We've got some challenges for some other organizations. We got some prize pools on the line.
Ooh.
It's not fully planned out just yet, but I promise you it's going to be one hell of a fun event that I hope the community is going to love. Seeing some top orgs go head to head against each other in a game that big with that many players at the same time, the same lobby. I mean, God knows what kind of strategy 16 Acer players are going to come up with in the moment. But I guess that's one thing that I'm really looking forward to. And we'll hopefully do that the second Forefront releases, which is in a few months. So pretty soon.
Yeah, I think it was they said end of year or something like that. I remember the second that announcement came out, I like hit all the cast because a lot of the cast we're all like in a group chat together. I hit all the cast was like, yo, we got to play this game. It's like up to 16 people. I'm sure it's like squads of 4, but you can still play on a big team together, which is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm super excited. I really am.
Yeah, I'm always looking forward to like those new VR releases because I just want to see, especially like with teams that have proven themselves, right? You have Triangle Factory did such a good job, I think, with Breachers, and I'm excited to see what they develop into their upcoming game because they probably have more money now because they've sold. I think they've done a pretty solid job with Breachers. Might have expanded the team. Who knows? I'm excited to see what they can develop with that. But
yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, thanks, Achilles. I wanted to say thanks for coming on to the cast, the podcast Beyond the Headset. Definitely check out my other episodes. I have one right now with Virtual On, and a Yellow Hat. I wanted to say thanks for coming on. I really appreciate you giving me some insights into Acer. Before we sign out today, though, are there any last things or people you wanted to shout out, or any last things you wanted to say?
I mean, first of all, I'm super honored to be here in the first place. When it comes to shoutouts, I mean, I have to shout out every last one of our players, every single one. I can safely say we would not be here without every single player's combined efforts, every single one, even the ones that no longer play for us. Shout out to Virtual, of course. Shout out to IVI. Love those guys. I love Virtual. Shout out to you, of course, and the whole VRL Casters team. You guys do a fucking...
We try.
Maybe I shouldn't curse, but an amazing job. You guys do an absolutely amazing job. Yeah, you guys are amazing. VRML is awesome. And I'm super happy to be here once again.
Thanks, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Hopefully, maybe we'll do a follow-up cast in the future. I'm not sure how I'm trying to handle the format on this, but I did want to say thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. And, hopefully we can see some more esports organizations come out, honestly.
Oh, yeah, man.
Oh, yeah. All right.
There we go.